Hey everyone! Thank you for watching my presentation on Eric Jensen's book, Teaching with Poverty in Mind: What Being Poor Does to Kids' Brains and What Schools Can Do About It. Before I jump into things, I want to give a brief overview of what will be discussed during this presentation. First, I want to describe a little bit about the book's author, Eric Jensen, and give some background information on him. Following this, I really want to unpack Jensen's purpose for writing Teaching with Poverty in Mind. After this, I want to explore some of the topics Jensen discussed throughout the book, including understanding poverty and its effects, and then also some of the I'm calling them share strategies that he discusses to help overcome and work through the challenges poverty presents. Finally, I want to finish up with sharing some of my thoughts about the book, how I think it's applicable to real-world situations, both in teaching and in things like classroom management. Eric Jensen grew up in San Diego, California, and has earned degrees in varying fields throughout his life. He's a former educator who has taught at multiple levels, ranging from elementary to collegiate. In addition to this, Jensen has authored over 30 books and worked to create brain research for educators to utilize. Jensen has extensive experience in the field of neuroscience, which focuses on the structure and the function of the brain and nervous system. Jensen is a co-founder of an academic enrichment program called SuperCamp, which has not only given him first-hand experience with the challenges poverty presents, but also demonstrated that it can be overcome. Having the first-hand experience witnessing the change that can occur in academic performance amongst students in poverty, Jensen was inspired to write Teaching with Poverty in Mind based off the key question: if life experiences can change poor kids for the worst, can't life experiences also change them for the better? Beyond this, Jensen wanted to specifically focus his attention on how the relationship between low socioeconomic status is related to academic achievement. In order to address this relationship, Jensen makes three major claims. His first claim is that chronic exposure to poverty causes physical changes to the brain. Jensen also claims that the brain exhibits neuroplasticity and is designed to change and adapt based on experiences. Finally, Jensen asserts that while many varying factors impact academic success, there are certain key ones that are especially effective in overcoming obstacles that are introduced by poverty. Throughout his book, Jensen addresses these primary claims and works to provide supporting evidence for each by detailing what poverty is and how it not only affects students' behavior, but also their performance in the classroom. Following this, he offers description of key factors important to spark change at the school and classroom levels. Before I explain how to combat the impacts of poverty in the classroom, it's important to understand what poverty is and how it afflicts individuals. Specifically, on page 6 of his book, Jensen provides his personal definition of poverty. Jensen says poverty is a chronic and debilitating condition that results from multiple adverse synergistic risk factors and affects the mind, body, and soul. Ultimately, poverty is multi-tiered and complex. People each have their own definition of what poverty is and what factors contribute to it. Jensen, for the purpose of his book, identifies 6 types of poverty. Situational poverty is caused by sudden crisis or loss, and it's often temporary. Things like divorce, health problems, or environmental disasters are often what can lead to situational poverty. Generational poverty is what occurs in families where at least 2 generations have been born into poverty. Absolute poverty is very rare in the United States as it's focused on more day-to-day survival. There's a scarcity of necessities like running water, shelter, food, things that you need to survive. Relative poverty is a type of poverty that refers to the economic status of a family whose income is insufficient to meet society's average standard of living. In addition to this, urban poverty occurs in city areas with populations greater than 50,000 people, whereas rural poverty, in contrast, occurs in non-metropolitan areas where populations are less than 50,000 people. Ultimately, poverty has major effects on the population in 4 key ways listed on the slide. Specifically, they impact students' performance and behaviors in the classroom. Emotional and social challenges are often the result of the environment in which someone is raised. Students who grow up in poverty do not always learn emotional responses beyond the 6 that are hardwired into their brains. Emotions such as joy, anger, surprise, disgust, sadness, and fear come naturally, but others that are instrumental in a smoothly running classroom, such as cooperation, patience, and empathy, must be taught. When they are not, students are at risk to underperform, act out, and become excluded by their peers. The acute and chronic stressors attributed to poverty also negatively impact students' behavior and performance in school. According to Jensen, experiments have shown that chronic or acute stress can actually shrink the neurons in the brain's frontal lobes, which ultimately impairs the brain's ability to learn and remember information. Cognitive lags can result from the limited resources available to children that grow up in households of low socioeconomic status. Therefore, it's important to make sure that certain skills are developed properly, as most of the time you'll find things like reading and writing are not on the level that they should be compared to peers of middle class and above families. Poverty is linked to a multitude of health and safety issues among children who grow up in low socioeconomic status households. Issues such as malnutrition, environmental hazards, and insufficient health care are commonly observed. There's an overlap very clear between achievement and health. If you want your body to function properly, then it doesn't need extra stress. When the body is under attack from different stressors, the immune system works its best to adapt to these stressors and try to improve health as best it can. Unfortunately, this diminishes a student's ability to concentrate, learn, and behave appropriately in the classroom. Initiating change in the minds of students raised in poverty can be done at the macro and micro level, both school-wide and in the classroom. According to Jensen, there are 5 key factors that contribute to the overall success of a school working against poverty. The first factor is support of the whole child. This means providing support in all aspects of a child's life, not just those directly linked to a classroom. If schools can find a way to address the social, emotional, and health-related challenges kids face daily, then they have a real chance at helping their students achieve academic excellence. Jensen adequately sums up this sentiment using the old saying, "When you're up to your neck in alligators, it's hard to remember that your initial objective was to drain the swamp." If the basic needs of students, including food, shelter, medical care, safety, family, and friendships, are unmet, then it is unfair to expect students to work at a high level of achievement. Hard data is the second factor important to the success of a school. Collecting, generating, and analyzing data allows schools and educators to get feedback related to their students' performance as well as the effectiveness of their teaching strategies. When gathering data, it's important to consider the criteria for the data that you're taking. How are you performing? Are the needs of the students being met? What are we doing good and what can we do better? Accountability is the third factor important to consider to help overcome poverty at the macro level. Rather than attributing a lack of student success to their circumstances or upbringing, it's important for teachers and all educators to take accountability for their role in a student's life. Think about, what can I be doing to make a difference, or what is it that I need to change to give my students their best chance at success? Relationship building is instrumental to the success of students. Children need to be able to form strong and reliable attachments, and the educators and staff they encounter in schools are the people they build those attachments with. The essential solution to build relationships is to establish and help grow relationships at multiple levels, between coworkers, between students, and then bridging the gap between the two groups. Finally, having the enrichment mindset is important to help students foster intellectual curiosity, emotional engagement, and social bonding. An enriched environment works to maximize both student and staff potential, as it provides both the skills and support necessary for growth and achievement. It's important to generate a welcoming environment for students in which they feel comfortable, as well as generating an enrichment mindset among staff members. Additionally, constantly seeking out any opportunity to incorporate enrichment is important to fully benefit students. On the micro level, there are again 5 key factors that are important to consider in efforts to overcome poverty. The first is standards-based curriculum and instruction, which is primarily concerned with making sure students can truly demonstrate what they have learned and adequately apply it during testing and academic situations. It is great for students to be able to sit in class and learn all day, but if they are not able to generate or reproduce their knowledge and apply it to various situations, then they are not up to the level of success needed. Hope building is the second factor. It is pretty self-explanatory in that teachers need to build their students up and help them have their own level of self-worth and hope for success. The hope provided doesn't need to be superficial, but rather the kind that inspires students to dream big and understand that with genuine effort and work, they can be successful. Arts and athletics and advanced placement all have a significant role in helping students grow as they help build background knowledge and develop skills that carry over into multiple aspects of life, both in and out of the classroom. They can help challenge students and encourage them to think about things in new and different ways, as well as build learning and memorization skills. Retooling of the operating system involves helping students to upgrade their skills, helping them in their memory, attention, processing speed, and sequencing skills, ultimately expanding upon those tools that will help them be successful in the classroom. Finally, engaging instruction is designing lessons that will engage students and include their interests. Students who find themselves more included in what's going on in the classroom can build on their social skills and feel as though they have an important role in what's going on in class. These are just the sources for the images on the previous slide. Now I just want to take the time to give my thoughts and kind of do a more review of the book. Personally, I felt that Jensen's book very adequately provided claims linked to the overall theme of how poverty detrimentally impacts the brain and gave great evidence to support each claim that he made throughout the book. Jensen used a very general but consistent format in which he introduced the main topic being discussed, the theory and research that was linked to that topic, and then the effects or real-world examples that gave further depth and understanding for the topic. And finally, I really like that he gave very clear-cut, simple action steps that educators can immediately take and try to apply into the classroom to really get started on initiating change. Jensen states that while many texts fail to break down research into clear strategies that busy educators can use, he wanted to make a book that could easily do this, and I really thought that he did so. He gave so many references all throughout the book and supported every claim that he made. He never said something without having the evidence to back it up. Jensen provided very clear information and wrote in such a way that nothing was too challenging to understand. I especially enjoyed how he maintained the narrative of Mr. Hawkins throughout the book. It made the text more personable and relatable, and in the final chapter was really effective at tying together and applying the vast majority of concepts introduced throughout the text. Personally, I have no direct experience teaching students who have grown in poverty, but I feel significantly more prepared should the opportunity arise. And in some aspects, I'm actually excited to have the opportunity just because I feel more prepared for it, and I have solutions that I would want to try to implement to really benefit the students in the classroom and also myself as a teacher. Finally, in closing, I just want to talk about why I think this book is so important, not only just as an educator, but also in terms of things like classroom management. I think the information and solutions that are presented in Teaching with Poverty in Mind provided me with a completely new mindset about not only what poverty is, but how its influence carries over into the classroom. I thought that the text gave clear understanding that there's always a reason for why students behave as they do. In terms of classroom management, I felt this was good to know just because it means that even though I set clear expectations for my students, they might not necessarily be able to meet those expectations, and it shows me that, there's things I can be doing to help them be where they need to be and rise to meet any challenges that I give them. I think taking the time to understand how poverty impacts the brain can also help educators develop solutions and plans to help enrich student experiences in the classroom. If you focus on strategies that will help students develop skills to reach academic achievement, then you're really helping them grow into the person that they need to be. I think the book made me realize that my role as a teacher goes even farther than I thought. In classroom management, we've discussed how you really need to have a positive relationship-building approach, but I think this book even further solidifies this thought. In a world where poverty makes everything uncertain, I'm going to be a source of consistency and encouragement to my students. At the same time, I have to push my students to learn and grow in all the ways that will help them be successful in the classroom. Finally, following strategies to overcome poverty directly encourage growth of students, but also growth for me as a teacher. Putting the time to learn and change strategies to help my students succeed in the classroom is so important, and I really like this book. because it just really inspired me to think about how I can best help my students. Here's all my references below.